Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Fund.AI. So nice to be here with all of you. Thank you. I know we're starting bright and early, but a little Miley always kicks off the day with some energy. So I'm so happy to be with you all today. Many of you joined us last year for a conversation that we called Fund.AI. I think I might have said then, but I'll say it to you today, it might be a bit of a bait and switch. I'll tell you what I mean. I don't think we're actually here to learn how to fund AI. It's not really a goal that requires all of us to spend as much time as we are together. I'd say instead, the goal for us over the next couple of days might be to think about a bigger question. What does it look like to build a good society in the age of AI, in the age of intelligent machines? Instead of just thinking about the investments that we want to progress, what would it look like to think about the ideals that we want to protect? As we learn more about AI, to understand how it might affect every part of our work, our lives, our days, and how we might think about a new structure for how philanthropy engages with the world. Now, that's a big goal. Let me start maybe with a smaller story. I'm a huge nerd. The last few days, I've been thinking a lot about farms and bridges. You'll see that come up a lot in my comments over the next couple of days. My staff in the audience are laughing because they've already heard me talk about this. But I want to start with the farm. Not so long ago, I was on a farm in a very small village in rural India. I think many of us in this room have probably been in similar places in our work in the field, but for me, this was quite special. I grew up in rural Illinois, my family in rural India, and when I go and visit them, it was almost an emotional sensory overload. It's the kind of place where there's just kind of billowing clouds of red dust, and the closest telephone was 2 miles away. There's no electricity in the village, there's no running water, there's an outhouse, and there's farms, very small farms of rice farmers all across the way. I got to go back to the same area, and I went with a different mission in mind. I went with a set of technologists, a couple of engineers from a company called AgroStar that I think some of the foundations in this room have actually funded, and they have a new app. And that app will sound pretty familiar to many of you. It's now become kind of a trope. At the time, it was brand new. It let you go out and look at a rice farm and ask a question based on what we know about local weather patterns and what the projections are for humidity and for when the rain might come, what we know about the soil composition, and any variety of other data that was put into a pretty advanced AI model. Could we help farmers know exactly when to plant, exactly when to harvest, exactly when to go to market with what they had created? And as you might imagine, these engineers were very excited. They wanted to talk about AI. They wanted to talk about all of these cool things they had built. And we went out in the fields and we talked with these farmers, and I just remember this one conversation we had where they tried and tried and tried to explain to this farmer why he should be excited about this. And at some point he pulled me aside and he said, look, I only have one question. If I use this tool, can I be guaranteed that I make enough money this season that I can pay my daughter's school fees? Because I had to keep her home last year. To me, the idea of Silicon Valley, of all of our technological development, all of the incredible innovation we do, things that I deeply celebrate. I love the fact that we can create technologies that change the world. Don't matter very much unless we keep in mind who we're building them for. That the idea here isn't merely to innovate in technology, but to innovate in our idea of what a good society could look like. So that's the invitation today. We will go deep into technology. I hope you will be excited. For those who are a little bit scared, that's okay too. For those who are a little bit bored, that's okay too. We'll have some really amazing folks come up and talk about what's happening at the frontiers of AI innovation, from companies, from nonprofits and civil society organizations that are using these tools. We'll have some really incredible peers and colleagues come up and talk about what it means to actually create pathways to invest in these tools, to invest in organizations. And maybe most importantly, how we build a structure where we work together to create a new vision of what's possible in our society with these tools. We'll spend some time really looking at case studies and exemplars, but also building plans together of how we might do this work. And we'll hear from some really exceptional people. One I'm very excited to introduce you to in just a moment, Baratunde Thurston. We'll be joined by former Vice President Al Gore and a number of other folks who have really been thinking about these issues in lots of different verticals and ways. But as we come together, I think the most important thing for me will be not so much what we learn in our discussions from stage, but what we develop with each other as we think about how we step into something that is actually really exciting. Not just the idea that we'll use the tool of the moment to try to do what we've always done. Maybe in a broader sense, not merely to use technology to advance the same society we've ever had, but to actually ask the question, if we could change every assumption we've had about scarcity, about inequality, about access to justice, what would we invest in to build so that we could actually build a better future for everyone? That's the invitation. I want to take a moment to share some gratitude. It's really a delight, again, to be here together at something called Fund.AI. It's a product of an incredible partnership with Fast Forward. I know we've got a number of Fast Forward folks around the room, but Kevin, Shannon, Summer, and the entire team. I came in yesterday. They were here with their hats on, doing the work. A big round of applause. To our incredible team at the Patrick J. McGovern Foundation, Becca Portman. Becca, where are you? Wave. Becca's in the back, who has led on the strategy, on the tactics of putting this together. We've got a whole team in the room. And of course, my very dear friend and colleague, Nick Kane, who I think for me has been the creative driving force between bringing this community together. Nick, thanks for everything you've done. This is going to be really fun.